Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video, doing the GWV Sunday Round-Up for today's second video. So it's on a Sunday afternoon, we've got your eclectic mix of this and that. We'll look at things like sea surface, temperature anomalies, the QBO, quasi-biennial oscillation, have a little bit about that, Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation, and the weather for the next week to 10 days as well. So it could be quite an interesting watch. Hope you find it interesting and informative. The first video up today was the 7th analogues update for the summer of 2019. That video is here on the homepage at GWV.com right now, so it's just above the polling count. And later on today, sometime this evening, that'll be placed on the summer updates page, and there'll be an extensive written summary that goes with that as well. So I'll get that onto the summer updates page later today. You'll be able to watch it on demand and also have a read of that written summary as well, going over everything that we discuss in the video. Right, so going with the GWV Sunday Round-Up for you right now. We're going to start off with sea surface temperature anomalies today. So this is how things were looking across the oceans when we did last week's mini Sunday Round-Up. We did a little mini Sunday Round-Up last week on Easter Sunday. We've got our three areas of interest. We've got the ENSO region just here from Peru towards Indonesia over there. So that's the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Also known as the ENSO region. We've got the non-Pacific Ocean up here, and then we've got the North Atlantic Ocean over there. That's how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking last week, when we did last week's mini GWV Sunday Round-Up. This is the latest. So, dealing with the ENSO region, first of all, we've perhaps seen a little bit of warming over the past week in the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean over towards Peru. This area just here has perhaps warmed slightly in the past week, although overall things really quite stable in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. We've just got a very, very weak signal for El Nino at the moment. We had an El Nino through the winter of 2018-19. It's fading away now. It's already very weak anyway. It's fading away gradually back towards ENSO neutral at the moment, and we wait to see where we're going to go beyond that as we get into the summer. We did the ENSO update, of course, on Friday evening. In the non-part of the Pacific Ocean, things have cooled down a little bit in that northeastern corner, so just around here, things have turned a little bit colder. It's normally quite a cold part of the world, actually, with the sea surface temperature anomalies up there. Usually, a lot of the time, it's quite cold up there, but over the past 4 or 5 years, actually, we've had a lot of warm sea surface temperature anomalies up there, but that's kind of like unusual for the area. Normally, it is quite a cold part of the Pacific Ocean up there, so maybe that's just started things getting back towards a more normal state, which is generally cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies, although bear in mind, any temperature changes that's occurring close to the coast, so anywhere like there, or this sort of area just here, if it's close to the coast, then generally that shallow waters, and it is prone to rapid increase and decreases in sea surface temperature and sea surface temperatures with changing weather conditions and that kind of thing. So we would need to wait longer to confirm whether this is a change to something colder in this part of the northeastern Pacific Ocean, or whether actually it's just a response to some sort of local weather conditions in those shallow waters close to the Canadian and American Pacific coast. Over in the Atlantic Ocean, so again, that's the situation last week. This is the situation now. Very little change. It's possibly cooled a little bit in the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean here. It's been a semi-permanent feature over the past 4 or 5 years as well, that consistently had these cold average sea surface temperature anomalies to the south of Greenland. So between around 40 and 60 degrees north, it's generally been quite cold there. So as this part of the Pacific Ocean has been generally warmer over the past 4 or 5 years, this part of the Atlantic Ocean has generally been a little bit colder. Down in the tropical Atlantic, we see that, again, let's go back to last week. So that's how the tropical Atlantic was looking last week. sort of from that area just there from the equator up to 20 degrees north. If you have a look at the latest, again, very little change. Overall, not particularly warm. So it did go a bit warmer than average through the tropical Atlantic like a month or so ago, but things have cooled back down again through there. So no particularly warmer than average area sea surface temperature anomalies through the tropical Atlantic at the moment. That's important because if the sea surface temperature anomalies remain close to or below average into the summer, then that could have a dampening effect on the hurricane season. But of course, it's very, very early to say that one way or another. This is how the solar disk is looking on our side of this today from Soham.net. Completely spotless. It's been spotless for 6 days. Soham are reporting. And they're saying that solar activity, consequently, is at very low levels and will remain at very low levels, or forecast remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. If you haven't got the GWV Sunday Round-Up solar activity tracker this week, giving a rest. It will be back next week. We're just resting it after Solar Sunday last week. But the GWV Sunday Round-Up solar activity tracker will be back next week. You can be assured of that. This is how the Eurasian snow cover is looking. So it is dying back quickly now. Still quite a decent amount of snow cover across northern parts of Scandinavia. It's sort of pulling back now into central parts of Russia. Of course, most of Siberia, away from these southern areas anyway, still largely covered with snow. But you see that western Russia now is snow-free. It's the snow line kind of like from there. Western Russia snow-free. Most of Europe is now snow-free away from mountainous regions, and many parts of southern Scandinavia are rapidly losing their snow cover as well. That's all as you'd expect, and by the time we get through to sort of July time, we're going to find that the whole of Eurasia is snow-free, except, again, over mountainous areas. So all of this area just here across Russia and Siberia that's currently white, still with snow cover, that will be gone by the middle of the summer. First snowflakes normally start falling for the next season in September, but sometimes the first snowflakes can fall across Siberia in August. The yellow area just here, this is Arctic sea ice, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that over the next few weeks and months as it moves into the summer season. We'll find a lot of that yellow Arctic sea ice disappearing. We'll see what kind of season we have in terms of Arctic sea ice melt this year. We have tended to see some quite big melt seasons over the past few years, although we haven't had a death spiral year since 2012. Remember, the death spiral year for Arctic sea ice was in 2012. Haven't had one since, so hopefully we won't for 2019, but we'll keep a close eye on that over the next few weeks and months. Anyway, QBO, quasi-biennial oscillation. I haven't looked at this. It's from the University of Berlin. So it just confirms that we're in a westerly QBO phase, really. But, they stopped updating this for around a year. I'm not sure what happened, but they have recently started updating the chart again. So you're familiar with this. It shows the west and easterly QBO phases through the grey and white areas. So, for example, where we've got this white area just here, that's an easterly phase of the quasi-biennial oscillation. That's in the year from starting in 1964 and ending in 1966. So the year of 1965 was primarily a easterly QBO year. The grey area is a westerly phase of the QBO. So, for example, there and down to there, that's a westerly QBO phase through 1969 to 1970. That was a westerly QBO period. So we go down through the years, and we get to the year that we're currently in, 2018 through to 2019. You can see that we have the easterly QBO. The last easterly QBO was from 2017 through to 2018. Westerly QBO phase is what we're in right now, with this grey area just here, taking us from 2018 into 2019. It's updated to March, so there'll be a further update of this early next month, updating it to April. And we can expect that we will stay in the westerly phase of the QBO, certainly for the next sort of 6 months or so. The first signs of the easterly QBO will be a white area starting to appear up here, right at the very top of the atmosphere. So you can consider, like on the side here, we've got the levels of the atmosphere. So we've got 10 HPA up there, that's up in the stratosphere. Got 100 HPA down there, that's like down on the surface virtually. So these phases, easterly and westerly QBOs, always begin from the top and work their way down. So we'll see the first signs of the switch back to the easterly QBO, which is probably going to occur by the time we get through to the winter. We should be going back into the easterly QBO by winter 2019-2020. Winter 2019-2020 will be an easterly transitioning winter, easterly QBO transitioning winter, so going from west to easterly phase. And the first signs of that probably will appear in the summer up here at the top of the chart there, where a white area will start to appear. So, as I say, they haven't been updating that at the University of Berlin for quite a long while. They stopped updating it for around a year. I'm not sure what happened. But it is being updated now. And, of course, next week, we'll do next week's Sunday Roundup, we should have the QBO number for April. NOAA. That is likely to still be showing a strong westerly QBO. In fact, it will probably strengthen from the QBO number that we had in March. So we're going to carry on strengthening the westerly QBO into the summer. And then as we get through to the autumn, should start to weaken. And then by the time we get through to winter 1920, we should start to transition from west to easterly phase of the QBO. Remember, it's just an index that's reflecting the strength of the zone of westerlies. So when you're in a westerly QBO phase, you are strengthening the zone of westerlies. When you're in an easterly QBO phase, you are weakening the zone of westerlies. So very sort of crudely, a westerly QBO in the winter goes along with a mild Atlantic-driven signal, and an easterly QBO phase in the winter goes along with a colder, more block-type signal. However, it's not as straightforward as that, because there are many, many winters that are westerly QBO that are cold, and many, many winters that are easterly QBO that are mild. So, for example, we've got 2008-2009 up here. That is a westerly QBO winter, but it was pretty cold in that winter. Conversely, let's try and find a mild easterly QBO winter. So, yeah, there's a good example of a mild easterly QBO winter from 2001 to 2002. Winter 2001-2002 was an easterly QBO winter. It did start off quite chilly, actually, in that winter, but it got very mild in January and February of 2002. Another mild easterly QBO winter was 1994-1995 up there. So you see that it doesn't work all that straightforwardly, although an easterly QBO winter has a greater chance of being colder than westerly QBO winter, but it's not as straightforward as that. So we'll keep an eye on the QBO anyway over the next few weeks and months. Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart is looking like this. So the black line tells us where we've been, with the AA, the red line's at the end, where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. This again, just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. It's not driving anything in its own terms, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. So when the Arctic oscillation is positive, you've got low pressure up over the pole, and you are normally strengthening the westerly flow and also strengthening the Azores high. So a positive Arctic oscillation doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be particularly wet in our part of the world, because if the Azores high strengthens enough, then that will send a ridge into west of Europe. That can actually be quite a dry, mild or even warm signal, especially as you get through into the summer. A negative Arctic oscillation tells you that you've got blocking areas of high pressure up over the pole. Blocking in the winter is a route pushing cold air out of pole into mid latitudes. In the summer, what northern blocking will tend to do is leave you pretty cool and wet. A lot of our wettest and coolest summers tend to be those summers that have appreciable levels of northern blocking, especially around Greenland. So if you're thinking of a summer like 2007, for example, or 2012, two real washout summers. They usually have, those summers and summers like those usually have quite a high level of northern blocking somewhere towards Greenland. And in the summer, that will usually allow a trough to sit underneath it through the Atlantic and into the UK. Anyway, where we are right now with the Arctic Oscillation is that we are weakly positive, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to generally remain on the positive side, really, as we go into the first half of May. So it looks like we're going to have positive AO conditions into the early part of May, which should strengthen the Azores high a little bit. NAO observed and forecast chart is the same idea. So again, the black line tells us where we've been with the North Atlantic Oscillation. Red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the North Atlantic Oscillation to go. Once again, it's just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. This time we're looking at the barometric pressures between Iceland and the Azores. And so when you've got low pressure on ice, you've got high pressure in the Azores, then the NAO will tend to be positive. When you've got high pressure around Iceland and low pressure in the Azores, then the NAO will tend to be negative. Where we are right now is around neutral, actually, with the NAO. And the GFS ensembles in the next few days are forecasting the NAO to go into a more negative phase. Of course, we had a little bit of negativity of the NAO through the first half of April as well, before it swung back to positive territory. So it does look as though the Arctic Oscillation currently going through the Northern Atlantic Oscillation, I should say, currently going through a phase of swinging between negative and positive, which is quite unusual. So we was negative there, we're positive just there, and it looks like we're going back to negative again for the turn of the month into the beginning of May, before again it looks like the GFS ensembles then through the first half of May want to lift things back up into more positive territory. So the North Atlantic Oscillation is swinging really between positive and negative phases, which is quite unusual. Normally it will stick in a particular phase for a few weeks or months. So quite unusual what's going on there in the North Atlantic. So let's go through to the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles then. And we're looking at London today. So red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. We're starting off a little bit on the cool side for today, but temperatures will be lifting up over the next few days. It's going to go fairly mild as we get through into the middle part of the week. Actually feeling quite warm, I would have thought, by midweek. Into bank holiday weekend, still lots of uncertainty about this period. So that's the 1st of May just there. That's Wednesday. This is kind of like bank holiday weekend territory just here from around the 3rd to the 7th. And you'll see still quite a bit of uncertainty, actually. Most of these GFS ensemble members have milder than average, warmer than average upper air temperatures. But we have got this cluster appearing down here, which are doing something quite a lot colder. This is all down to a cold blast that's going to be hitting Scandinavia at the end of the coming week. And we're just on the periphery about how much of that northerly we let in is causing all sorts of problems within the model output, has been for days and is still continuing to do so. So we could either have quite a dry and warmish bank holiday weekend, or we could actually have quite a cool, even fairly cold bank holiday weekend with northerly winds, and maybe even starting to bring some low pressure in by bank holiday Monday. The general trend after that looks like it's to be around average, but what you will notice is that after being relatively dry through the first week, or the first days of May, it does get a lot more unsettled seemingly through into the second week of May. So the trends for May might not be all that inspiring actually through the first half of the month. Anyway, it does look as though we're trending relatively, well, not particularly warm, let's say, and also probably increasingly unsettled as we get through into the second week of May, although that is very extended range stuff, so of course it is unreliable. Temperature anomalies from the 28th of April to the 6th of May, generally looking a little bit on the cooler than average side. Rather disappointing, you would say, I suppose, as we've got another bank holiday appearing. But again, bear in mind, we are very uncertain about this May Day bank holiday weekend. It is causing all sorts of problems within the model output. This is based on the midnight run of the GFS, which I'm going to show you in a moment. It is quite a chilly midnight GFS run. And so that's why we're coming away with a cooler than average temperature anomaly. Most parts of Europe looking pretty chilly as well. Precipitation anomalies on the 28th of April to the 6th of May, drier than average. So we're going to be quite a bit of dry weather in the next week, then possibly getting more unsettled to the second week of May, perhaps. So this is how the GFS operational run is looking. This is the midnight GFS operational run, what I was just talking about. So this is Wednesday. I've got a ridge sitting to our north and east, low pressure out to west. So we're bringing up quite warmish air from the south on Wednesday. But as we get through to the end of the week, this is that northerly shot as low pressure moves into Scandinavia, starts to pull down these cold northerly winds. And this GFS run does actually bring down some quite chilly air, although we're close to this area of high pressure, so most of it is being kept away to our north and northeast. But we do bring some colder air down with this GFS run into that area of high pressure. What that would do, I mean, it wouldn't be too bad by day if there's plenty of sunny spells. It's not going to be too bad in May in the sunshine. The sun is really strong now, but at night that could produce some quite nasty ground frost, maybe even some air frost perhaps, as we go into the bank holiday weekend, which is not what farmers, gardeners and growers are going to want at all. That high pressure then sort of sits around the country as we get through to Sunday, so that could give us quite a nice day on Sunday as the wind begins to shift round more towards kind of like a southerly southeast direction. That would start to lift the temperatures up a little bit as well. But not hanging around very long. This is bank holiday Monday, and by then the high pressure is slipping away into Central Europe and low pressure is developing out in the Atlantic. So that low pressure is starting to move outbreaks of rain in from off the Atlantic for bank holiday Monday. That's Tuesday, midnight Tuesday, so just beyond the bank holiday weekend. Looks quite unsettled actually, particularly for England and Wales, close to this area of low pressure. Could bring quite a lot of cloud and outbreaks of rain to the south. So again, so much uncertainty about this May Day bank holiday weekend. Last night when we did that fourth May Day bank holiday update, it didn't look too bad at all really, but things have deteriorated again overnight for this bank holiday weekend. And there's going to be extended range. This is day 10, Wednesday 8th of May. We start to move low pressure in off the Atlantic, and then we do go into quite unsettled conditions actually as we go into the second week of May. We saw it on the ensemble chart that the second week of May is definitely trending more unsettled with outbreaks of rain heading in from off the Atlantic. So not terribly good signs for the first half of May, you have to say, with today's midnight operational GFS. This is a parallel GFS. This will become the main operational GFS run in June. So again, we start on Wednesday looking quite fine really. There is a chance of some showers breaking out from this little trough out to our west. Probably quite warm as well on Wednesday. In towards the end of the weekend, here comes that northerly as we move through towards the bank holiday weekend, just on the periphery of it, but probably particularly for northern eastern parts of the country, getting a bit of a swipe from those cold northerly winds, and really real cold northerly is sinking down through Scandinavia. You'll notice they're going to have a proper late blast of cold northerlies there. That Sunday, the high pressure is ridging through the country then on Sunday, so a lot of dry weather on offer through the first half of the May Day bank holiday weekend. Just temperatures could be rather on the chilly side, particularly at night. But by the time you get through to bank holiday Monday, again, low pressure is trying to break through from off the Atlantic, and that does turn us more unsettled through bank holiday Monday with outbreaks of rain heading in from the west, and then moving into more extended range. Well, quite a lot better with the parallel GFS run compared to the operational. Much more influence from high pressure with the parallel GFS through that second week of May, so we don't go into that low pressure dominated unsettled second week of May. Actually, we're much warmer and drier under that ridge of high pressure. So big differences between the parallel and the operational GFS. Again, just highlighting all of the uncertainty that we've got at the moment. ECMWF, again, we've got a bit of a showery day coming up on Wednesday, but then we go through to Thursday and Friday, we get more of a northerly actually with the ECM. Notice how much further north and west the ECM is with that area of high pressure. It's kind of like centering it quite a bit further away from us in the North Atlantic compared to the GFS, which does allow us to pull in much more of a northerly wind at the end of the week. So that's turning things cold, actually. The ECM is turning us cold at the end of the week. And probably cold enough for night frost, maybe cold enough for a few wintry showers actually up across northern and eastern parts of Scotland, and real northerly winds pushing through Scandinavia. There's the upper air temperatures. They are unusually cold there. This is Saturday the 4th of May, and we're bringing the -5 Celsius ice firm down across country. It's not what you want to see at the beginning of May, because that is going to lead to cold nights in particular, and you could expect some really quite damaging air frost actually from that. So that's quite serious if you're a professional farmer, grower, or a hobby gardener. Then you will need to watch out if we do bring that -5 Celsius ice firm down across country into the bank holiday weekend. Then look out, you'll need to cover up big time. We go through to Sunday, and that high pressure then starts to ridge back in across the country, cutting off that northerly supply, but probably still quite chilly. This is bank holiday Monday. Actually looks better than the GFS output, because excuse me, because we've still got this ridge over the country, so we're not breaking the Atlantic through there, and we keep that high pressure going then up towards day 10, moving it back up to Scandinavia again and turning winds into east. So a very different solution from the ECMWF this morning compared to both the GFS operational parallel. Again, just highlighting all of the uncertainty that we've got for the early part of May. This bank holiday weekend is causing all sorts of problems still within the model output. We've just got to wait for it to get sorted out. These are the options that were on the table with the GFS with the ECMWF ensembles last night for day 10. The ensembles haven't updated the Icelandic Met Office for the latest ECM run this morning. So I thought I'd show you last night. Just again to highlight the uncertainty, but it's within the ECM ensembles. So this is for day 10, 240 hours away. And I've got 13 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. So they're kind of westerly, but main drive in the south. But much more unsettled up in the north. There's 11 that have a stronger ridge across the country with low pressure out to the northwest. Then there's another 9 that have high pressure actually centred over the top of the country just there. Let's change the colour. They've got high pressure centred over the top of the country. There's 7 down here that have a weak ridge somewhere to our east. There's another 6 that have a stronger ridge to our east, and then there's 5 that are bringing low pressure through across the country, unleashing the Atlantic. So remember, at this point today, the GFS is very keen to move the Atlantic in by day 10, but the ECM ensembles last night anyway were seeing that as a very sort of minority option. Only 5 members of the ECM ensembles were doing that, and most of the other ECM ensemble members wanted to have some sort of ridge going at day 10. In 2 weeks' time, these were the options that we had. 18 bring the Atlantic in, so it's going into the second week of May, of course. This is the 12th of May, so into the second week of May. Looking much more unsettled with these 18 bringing low pressure in across the Atlantic. 13 with high pressure down to our southwest, low pressure up to the north. That's a more settled scenario, but probably quite cool. 12 with high pressure over top of the country, and then 8 with high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic, low pressure as a trough within the 500 millibar flow to our east. They're bringing down northerly winds with those 8 just there. So quite a bit of uncertainty in 2 weeks' time. Again, there is all sorts of problems within the model output, starting as early as the May Day bank holiday weekend. We will be keeping you updated, of course, at GWV over the next few days. CFS-V2, finally, before we go, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 28th of April to the 4th of May. The coming week with above average heights close to the UK, centred to our north. So quite a bit of dry weather on offer there. Not necessarily all that warm. We could be pulling in some chilly sort of northeasterly winds with that sort of setup. And similar for week 2, this is the 5th to the 11th of May, the above average heights then kind of like over and to the northwest of the country, troughs sinking down through Scandinavia and northeastern parts of Europe, so just on the periphery of a cold northerly plunge, Most of it's kept away from us, kept at bay across Scandinavia and the Baltic area of Europe. But if that high pressure pushes just a little bit further west and northwest, then we will open the doors to those cold northerly winds. That's what the ECMWF in particular is showing this morning. Then this goes on for week 3 as well. This is the 12th to the 18th of May, with the above average heights again out to our west. Possibly turning a little bit more unsettled there as well, maybe just a bit more influence from the jet stream. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 19th to the 25th of May. And then we do start to hint at full-on northern blocking, with the high pressure going even further northwest, centering itself over Greenland. Trough is still over Scandinavia, and that could be starting to turn quite a lot cooler, and probably more unsettled as well, although it doesn't show any particular trough of low pressure close to the country. If high pressure does start getting itself up towards Greenland, in May or any of the summer months, then what you'll tend to find is that this low pressure just here will start to roll in underneath it, and watch out if you get high pressure over Greenland in the summer, then it's typically quite a cool wet signal. However, this is the CFS-V2 monthly forecast for May, 700 millibar heights, and it's showing an area of above average heights close to the UK and going up to our north, below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, which will be pulling winds in from an east to southeasterly direction. Probably quite a warmish wind direction. The temperature anomaly for May at the moment being forecast to be significantly above average. Notice quite a cold May is being forecast for much of America though. So it's going for a really quite a cold May in America and up to Canada too, but for us it's keeping us quite warm. And the precipitation anomaly, that's just coming out close to average. It doesn't really have a signal, although with high pressure being forecast to be close to or just to our east, you expect quite a dry May to be on offer there. Right, so that's put you up to date with all of the latest developments in terms of GWV Sunday Round-Up. I hope you found it interesting. I say so much uncertainty for this early part of May. I'm not sure quite what's causing this uncertainty, other than we are getting this northerly plunge into Scandinavia at the end of the week, and it's just a question of how much of that northerly we're letting in. I think but that's primarily what's driving the uncertainty, but also we've got uncertainty further out into the second week of May, with the GFS looking much more unsettled this morning for the second week of May. The CFS, though, the long-range model, just wants to keep this high pressure close to or a little bit to our north and west. So I'm not sure the models have got a real handle on what's happening for May, and undoubtedly this will be the focus of the videos in the coming week. We will be trying to figure out what's going to happen, certainly for the first half of May. And we should see, as I've explained in videos before, May is always a really, really difficult month to forecast for, along with September. The reasons differ between the 2 months, but they're the hardest months to forecast, May and September. And we see that again this year, a classic example of it. So we shall see where it's all going. Don't forget to check out the 7th Summer 2019 Analogues update. That video is going to be placed on the Summer Updates forecast page this evening with written summary. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.